Hello, welcome to the Black Feather, an Ospreys rugby fan cast for the fans by the fans. Hello, lads. How are you enjoying this warm inclemental weather?
Oh, it makes everything better, doesn't it? Life is
Mm,
just a bit easier.
Yeah, 150 points for the Ospreys makes for a good week, doesn't it?
Yeah.
what a bonanza! What a bonanza! I'm not a fan of hot weather
No, I don't cook
unless I'm on a
terribly well.
unless I'm on a beach or beside a pool.
I'm not great at it, no, despite that I'm half Italian, but my mum's the same and she's fully Italian and she's absolutely useless in the heat. So it's obviously not genetics, is it? I think it's just what you're used to. Yeah.
I don't mind as long as I'm sunbathing and I've got like a drink in my hand and I'm reading a book or I'm listening to a book. I'm cool with that. That's great. It can be as hot as the surface of the sun. Working in this, I'm 10 out of 10 not a fan.
You should come to my school. I've literally been frozen today. I've been in a jumper all day. It's that
Have
cold in the
you?
building. And then I stepped out to the building at the end of the day and I was like, oh my God, it's boiling.
Mm.
I was just stripping everything off as I came out of the building.
Oh,
Oh,
see, now I'd love that. The sun hits my office window from about midday on. So around about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we've got to close the blinds and the curtains downstairs because otherwise it becomes like a furnace. It's way too warm.
mm.
But talking of hot things, how hot was that performance on the weekend? Sizzling.
Not bad, was it? No, it's definitely needed for morale more than anything. And the boys certainly performed. Bit of a sketchy first half.
Yeah.
Didn't look like it was going to go the way that it went. Me and you, Sam, maybe we get into this later, but we were in hospitality for the day, weren't we? So we got to do the predictor, and I don't think we were anywhere
Fingers up.
close. So,
No, I think
yeah,
I put
yeah.
down drag. I think I put down Ospreys by four. I think in my sort of prediction, or Ospreys by one score. I thought it was going to be a really sort of cagey, tight game. How wrong were we?
Well,
Yeah.
considering the score at half time, I was not expecting that second half performance. You
Yeah, what
know,
was that? 14-10, was that?
14-10.
It
Yeah.
We scored
was.
7 tries in the second half.
Mm.
Wow. 43
That's
points.
insane.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
think it
You
was
know,
fairly typical of the Dragons season though, as it's gone. They sort of competitive for a certain amount of time. You know, in a lot of games they've been competitive for 50 minutes, competitive for an hour.
Mhm.
You know, they couldn't quite last out this long against us, but yeah, it's kind of fairly good example of how their season's been really.
Yeah.
yeah, like my maths is not too great, but that's a try every like 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
and there wasn't a point scored for the first 20 odd minutes of that
no,
game. So yeah, do that math over 60 minutes and it's even more sort of frantic.
oh, don't fry me now. I'm good looking. I'm not clever. Um, I'm not that vain, honestly. I'm not. Um, but yeah, so couple of honourable mentions for my boy Keelan Giles and Dan Edwards. 2 tries apiece could quite easily have been a hat trick for both of those, really, if some stuff had come off, especially
Mm.
that pass from Morgan to Keelan.
Mm.
Um, and some really dazzling footwork from Morgan as well. Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
we were impressed, Rod, weren't we? Because we were locking down
Yeah.
towards that. And we had to watch it again a couple of times on the big screen. We were like, wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. But
Yeah. He was
Yeah, I think
you
we
everywhere,
know,
have to.
both sides of the ball. I think he had on top of his endless carries and meters made. I think on the other side of the ball, he had three dominant tackles as well. You don't often see that in even in somebody who's put in a masterclass of a tackling performance. Three dominant tackles
Mm.
is not bad for any
he was
well,
bouncing
whatever
people
year.
off for fun, wasn't he, at one point?
Yeah, yeah,
I think
It,
we've got to
like,
find a way to get both Morgans on the pitch together next season because Morgan Morris is so instrumental to the team. But then Morgan Morris is getting to the point where you can't leave him out either.
mm,
yeah, he's
So it's
shoved his
whether
hand
there's a
up quite
back row
firmly, isn't he?
configuration that we can play where they both play, whether it's one on blind side, one at eight. Even Morgan Morris at open side, I don't think would do a bad job either, to be honest.
Have we
Yeah,
had a situation yet where we've had a back three of all Morgans with Jack, Moggs Morris, and Moggs
Morgan
Morse?
Morse.
Don't know.
Have we had that before?
No,
Feels like it
I don't
must
think
have
we
happened,
have.
but I feel like people would have been talking about the three
Well, yeah,
The
exactly.
Morgans.
the Morgans, the triple threat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um, because let's face it, it would be a triple threat. Um, and how good was our mall on Saturday as well?
That looked back to a mall of Toby Booth era, didn't it?
Mm.
Where it just looked indefensible. That was a promising sort of reversion in our game back to type that I was actually quite glad to see. I feel like in moments in the past couple of weeks and months where we've maybe lacked a bit of that composure and where we've needed to resort to a plan B just to get us through a hairy 5 minutes. We haven't done that so well, but that
Yeah.
showed, at least with Adam Beard in the team, although he's
Yeah.
he's not long for this Ospreys world. It was
Sounds
back
like he's
to
dying.
form, isn't it?
I think it
Um,
shows that you have to have that platform set, don't you, to play, and I think that's what we didn't do against Cardiff and against Lyon. We didn't have the platform to play off. We didn't have that dominance up front. Whereas
Yeah.
on Saturday we were able to dominate the Dragons up front, which set the platform then for that second half barrage of tries.
yeah.
Shall
And
I shall I mention Casende? Because I know you're dying to mention him, but as an aerial threat, he was immense, wasn't he, on Saturday? The amount of balls that he won from kick-off, from box kicks. I lost count in the end, and was it two or three tries came directly from him
Mm.
turning
his
over
high
the ball
ball,
from kickoffs and stuff or whatever. Yeah, again a clear tactic and a clear threat to use his aerial prowess, isn't it? And that worked incredibly well on
he
Saturday.
was fantastic. I did write down Dan once again, amazing under the high ball. Um, you know, absolutely fantastic. I think him and Keelan really clicked on Saturday. And Mark Jones mentioned it in his match attitude that he called them the terrible twosome or something along those lines, and said it's a really great partnership. And when we had loose play, they were absolutely phenomenal, and we as a team need to give them more space.
Yeah.
Um, what Rod and I loved about them all as well is seeing those backs coming in to give it that extra and hitting it with
Yeah,
some intention as well to push it on.
Yeah.
Um, Rod and I said we both like seeing that when the backs are getting involved to give it that extra sort of like But all in all, a really good together performance.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if you guys saw the post-match talk with Mark Jones, but he was saying as a group, they're very honest and open and transparent about what they do right, about what they do wrong. Um, and fair play to him. He said about Judgment Day, Cardiff were just better. They executed things better. Um, and he said, we've got to give ourselves the right platform to focus on what we can do best and improve what we can't.
mhm.
Acknowledged that it's going to be tight going out to South Africa, but did say all the lads are up for it and it's open. The games are there to be won. Don't write it off. We were what 1% last season. We're 2% this season.
Yeah.
So who knows? But
And I
um,
think in terms of the teams we're playing in the next fortnight, or so not next weekend, the weekend after, the Sharks aren't in great form. They're stringing out results and they're sort of getting results over the line by hook or by crook, but they're not playing well. And the
yeah,
Lions have looked pretty awful the last few weeks. So we've got nothing massively to fear in terms of those two teams when we go there, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
And who was a standout performer for both you two on Saturday?
I think it was an incredibly important game for Dan Edwards after a couple of shaky performances in the last 2 weeks. Not shaky in terms of doing anything wrong necessarily, but maybe not as controlled as we've seen him in the past. And I don't know if that's to do with coming off the back of the Six Nations and maybe, getting that overexposure in the first couple of games and then getting stripped of that entirely, not even on the bench anymore. Maybe
Mm,
impacted his confidence a little bit. But so that's why I thought the game on the weekend was really important. It looked like he just took control of that game again. You were talking about platform, Sam. I think that's what he contributed to the game. He created that platform for other players. when he was coming around those corners and hitting gaps or putting the centers through those gaps, they were standing off him because he was quite unpredictable in what he was doing, and he had lots of support, lots of options. I think he beat more defenders than anyone on the weekend with five defenders beaten, which is quite, it's good for him for the type of player he is. It's not normally how we know he's capable of hitting those gaps and choosing a line and getting a runaway 50-meter try, but it's not the bread and butter of his game, is it? But
No.
he really lent into that side of things on the weekend, and it was fruitful for him and other people. He might have had a
Yeah.
couple of assists in there as well.
Mark?
Yeah, I'd say his halfback partner. I think Kieran Hardy had the official man of the match, didn't he? I think on the
Yeah.
day. And I thought he had a really, really good game as well. I think he's probably on current form our best nine. I mean, it's good that we've got two competitive nines, but I think Hardy at the moment has just pushed himself ahead of Ruben in terms of our top nine currently. I thought similar to Dan Edwards, like you were saying, I thought he controlled the ball, the play well, box kicked effectively, played that link role really well as well to get the backs moving. Yeah, I think he's possibly put himself back into the Welsh frame for the tour in the summer maybe as well. I think both our nines potentially could go on form currently.
Yes, yeah, which could leave us in a bit of a pickle. But it's interesting that you highlight Hardy there and the halfback partnership, because something I noticed in that game, which then was corroborated looking at the stats, was the fact that they almost they didn't switch kicking roles, but Dan really reduced his kicking on the weekend. Maybe that's just because of the amount of possession and territory we had, particularly in that second half. But Dan only kicked 5 times, Hardy 12. So there seems to have been a tactical choice there to favour the box kick and those contestable kicks. And after maybe a few kicks going awry for Dan in the last couple of weeks, just easing him back into that side of the game.
Yeah.
Settle his nerves. And I think, you know, quite a lot of players in that game put their hand up for man of the match. Thought Boshoff had another fantastic game. We've already mentioned Dan, Morgan Morse. I think it
Oh,
was a squad performance. It was a team performance.
Will Spencer, we can't go without mentioning either. I think he's having a big impact in that second row at the moment. He's quickly becoming my hero, Will Spencer. 2 tries in 2 weeks as well. He's going for a hat trick this next match now.
Yeah.
It's in South Africa as well. And yeah, he's just. I then the guy sort of puts someone out just after the game. I think we need to get his contract tied up for next year.
Yeah,
He's a really, really important squad player. And like you said,
Mhm.
Boshoff as well. I think he's a must to keep him next season.
yeah,
Both of them are experienced heads in there that play a really important role defensively as much as anything else as well. And I think signing them up is an absolute must for the summer.
yeah. I call Will the galloping giraffe, but the media have been calling him the gazelle. But I think the giraffe suits him better because giraffes are so tall. I don't think of gazelles as tall, or
Hmm.
am I losing my plot?
No, I think
Giraffe or gazelle?
I don't think a giraffe's as being taller than gazelle.
Yeah,
Yes. I think gazelles are quite leggy, isn't it? I think that's why it fits.
I'd love to see one in real life, but or if I could go anywhere and feed giraffes, if I'm being honest. But then I'd probably try and steal one and get one out of the zoo. So no, maybe not. Um, but I did think it was a complete performance from 1 to 23
Mhm.
because we did well. I worried perhaps in the second half that we'd made changes too early, being cocky, thinking we were well ahead of Dragons, and I was a little bit worried about that. But then the changes came on, and we continued to score. So for me, I should have had a little bit more faith, really. Um, just a very pleasing performance to end the last home game on. Then I can't
Yes.
remember when the last time was that we scored 9 tries in a game. I tried looking for it earlier on, but I kind of fell down a rabbit hole of something else. But
Yeah. Tough day for the Dragons,
yeah,
including a couple of key players for them as well. I think Aaron Wainwright, although he worked so hard in that game and was everywhere, being very busy, he just didn't have any parity in that game.
yeah,
I think he was the Dragons' top carrier for 33 meters he got over 13 carries,
Wow.
which isn't up to his usual sort of standard. By comparison, Morse had 12 carries for 96 meters, Giles 11 carries for 144, Walsh 9 carries for 82, Deves even had 7 carries for 80 meters.
And he wasn't
Um,
on that long.
Not that long now.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, the
So
Dragons are literally limping to the end of the season. I think it was Jamie that might have tweeted out they had 18 players unavailable.
Yeah, that's
yeah, I
just.
didn't know that going into it.
Their squad is absolutely decimated.
And
And
we've been there as
really battered.
Ospreys. We've been there. We know how crap that is.
Yeah.
Talking of Deevesy, made a couple of breaks, didn't he? Running.
He was enjoying
Boy
himself.
was gone. But then me and Rod noticed that he was like walking with his hands on his hips as if he was fucking blowing.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was hilarious. He was like, "Oh, I'm going for a stroll now, lads. I'm done." But again, another fantastic game. We can give an honourable mention as well to Keelan Giles' dad. I introduced Rod to him after the
Yes.
game outside. What a little pocket rocket. I love
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
Every time I
Cracking
see
fun.
him, he has me in absolute stitches, and I just can't help but hug him. So Keelan's dad, I will ask your name next time, but I love you. Please keep speaking to me because you make me laugh. But I thoroughly enjoyed that on Saturday.
Yes, yeah.
And I
And it was a
think
nice send off for Dan as well. It's worth mentioning Dan Lydiate
lovely.
as well, of
Yeah.
course, in front of an Ospreys crowd where he spent obviously so many years. It was really nice that he got that sort of stand ovation from both sets of fans,
Everyone
and he
stood
put
up.
in a classic Lydiate performance as well as his last game on Welsh turf. I think he got 13 out of 13 tackles. I think he was the only player not to miss a tackle on both teams. So highly
And
impressive stuff from him.
all of them are about 6 inches off the floor, probably. So
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
So
he's
good way for him to sign out, really.
yeah.
It was
such a
nice.
good tackler. The youngsters could learn a lot from watching that really with
Yeah.
great tackle technique. And he
And
was
they'll
doing
continue to
that.
do so because he's staying on as coach, isn't he? As
He is, yeah, he is.
Is it
Um,
mole coach? Is that going to be his title? Is that what I heard?
I don't
I
know. I didn't see
Or
what the
I
actual.
I wasn't
contact
sure
coach, something like
exactly what
that.
it was.
It was a phrase that I haven't actually heard before. Collision coach, contact
Let's have a
coach.
little look.
That sounds like
Some
the ideal role for him, doesn't it? Collision
Yeah,
coach.
it sounded like a highly specialized thing around
Yeah.
his rucking and his tackling. Yeah. Um,
Because if the Dragons still not got a defense coach,
Oh, he's going to be the breakdown coach.
no, they're going to be breakdown coach. That was
breakdown
it. Yeah,
coach.
yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah.
No, they may not because they're still waiting to ride out this season because Philo, stepped up
Hmm.
and assumed the head coach role after performing defense himself, didn't he?
Yeah, but I
So I
don't know
don't
whether
think
if they
they've
haven't
replaced
replaced
anyone.
him as defense coach. I'm not sure, but a
No,
lot
no.
of. I mean, the Dragons positively for them, they are starting to sign players and some quality for next season as well, which is
Yes.
reassuring and exciting for them. Hopefully,
Hmm.
they're the right signings that they need to move them forward because they can't have another disaster like this year
No.
again, really.
And nobody wants to see that for they are my second Welsh team. My Dragon shirt actually turned up this week. My girl won. Um, and nobody wants to see that. I think as much as we joke and jibe at like Cardiff and Scarlets, then, four regions succeeding is for the benefit of everyone. And that's ultimately what we want in Welsh rugby. Do you know what I mean?
Many Dragons fans around on Saturday?
Yeah, there was some opposite us, some just below us, I think. Um, Not like mega loads, but there were the
Hmm.
diehards there.
Yeah, that's good.
Shout out to Ozzy as well because he was like giving them some bants in front of them with
Hmm.
like posing in front of them and stuff. Big shout out to the band. Band were great.
Yes.
If they can learn some Taylor Swift, shake it off, I'd be happy. Might tweet Lance about that. Yeah, bit of Taylor Swift. Um, Me and Rod were playing Guess the Tune. I was better than Rod.
Brilliant.
Rod totally missed Another One Bites the Dust and the winner takes it all. What TV program in the 80s was Guess the Intro?
Oh gosh.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do, but I can't remember which program it was on. No.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, um, but we had a thoroughly good time on Saturday, which kind of brings us into our experience on Saturday. And we've got to say a big, big thank you to Ospreys in the community because I know we tweet about it and messaged about it, but Rod won the Ospreys in the community lottery box experience on Saturday, and Rod took me, and it was fab. Um, and they do such amazing work in the community. So Rod, tell us about your contribution and your lottery win.
Well, I think you just summed it up there, Sam, pretty well. I don't know what I can add apart from saying that it was a really good time. But yeah, so got a call from Neil Navarra, the community organizer over at the Ospreys, a couple of days before the game, and thought it was a prank call at first, but no, like you said, I'd won two tickets to the hospitality box. So we were in the Ospreys in the community box with one of the board members of the charity. So got to have some nice conversations, quite insightful conversations, really, with him about how the charity is organised and how they integrate with the Ospreys rugby team, and some of the amazing things that they're doing, and potential for collaboration with the podcast in the future, just to sort of help each other out because they're increasingly looking for opportunities to just penetrate deeper into the community. So, yeah, we won't list some of the amazing things they do, but lots of physical feats and various sort of fundraisers and visits to people in need and children,
Rugby
etc.
camp, sporting
Rugby
memories for
camps.
families with Alzheimer's.
Yeah,
Um, and we'll give you a link to sign up to the lottery.
yeah.
Um, as well as the prizes, that there is a cash prize, but they're also looking now to roll out to do non-cash prizes every month. And some of the amazing things that you can win are signed jerseys, hospitality experiences, prizes that are donated by their value partners. So Filtronics is one of those, so it could be an electronic prize. So literally get involved. It's a fiver's what your coffee from Starbucks. It's less than your coffee from Starbucks. And you're putting back into your own community. If you've got kids who are of age to go to the rugby camps, you're helping support that. Since the lottery was created at the end of 2023, so about a year and a bit, they've raised nearly 5 grand by doing the lottery. So, that's money in the coffers for your kids, your family members, and the amazing things they do. So, we'll give you a link to join. It's done by direct debit, and it gives you that feel good factor that you're doing something that goes back into your local community. It's not going, like the national lottery or going anywhere else. This is local to us. This helps us. So I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, just
Um,
big thank you to Tom Sloan and Neil Navarra and yeah, anyone else who just made that a nice experience for us. It's really good.
we had a lovely time. We did have a really, really lovely time. Um, we were on our best behaviour.
Yeah, we toned down the rowdiness a bit, didn't we? We turned
We
to each
weren't
other before
hooligans.
kickoff and we said, are we scaling things back a bit
We were
today?
like,
We
I said the word
up our
fudge.
shirts and yeah.
You
I
didn't
said
sticker
fudge.
anybody then, did you, on Saturday? No stickers.
Yeah, we did give some out.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. We didn't plaster them all around the box.
I said the hospitality lounge isn't covered in stickers, is it? No.
Well, um, Rod also had a P next to some quite big names.
I did. I certainly did. I had a couple of peas
He had a couple of
next to
piggies
some
next
like
to big
couple of big
names.
names. Yeah.
Um, I don't know how men's toilets work because they're very different to women's. And I'm not saying I've never been in a man's toilet because I have. I'm not going to lie. But men's toilets work very differently to women's toilets. I don't know how you don't find that embarrassing, lads. The thought of peeing in front of somebody really like gives me that I can't pee.
Just eyes ahead, Don't talk, don't make eye contact with anybody. You can just about get away
Is
with it.
that like the man PP and etiquette?
Yeah, if somebody talks to you, then that's a big no-no for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Unless you
no,
know them very, very well, and then you can
yeah.
just about get away with it. But
Oh, I
generally,
don't mind it. I did
Do you
have
I'm
to
not
not?
step
being next to
over
you then,
Morgan
Rod, ever in that
Morris's.
case.
I had to step over Morgan Morris's crutches splayed either side of him as he was having a pee as well. So if you need an icebreaker, that's it, isn't it?
That's it, innit? You're right, mate. I was crutches. Um, but it is one of those things, in it. But so onwards we go. We've got a week off now because we've got some Challenge Cup and European stuff going on this weekend. We've got no skin in that game, unfortunately. But we'll then be heading to South Africa, and I think we've got one Friday night game, one Saturday game.
Yeah.
As we say, all still to pay for with regards to going down, but we'll um, God, that was the thing, wasn't it? All to play for going down. Sam, wind it back in. But it's all to play for going down to South Africa. Realistically, we've got to score and get bonus points from both those games. That's the bottom line. Um, URC roundup.
Right.
Bloody Scarlets beat Leinster.
Well, do you know what? Your random
Okay.
question last week was, are we petty? And I said, no, not petty at all. I'm way too nice to be petty. What I've realized is I am really flipping petty because I did not want Cardiff or Scarlets to win on Friday and Saturday. And I didn't realize quite how much I didn't want them to win until I was watching the games. And I was literally
Welcome to the
rooting
Petty
for
Club.
Munster and Leicester. Yeah, I was gutted with both those results and all the crowing since then. Oh, how amazing it is for Welsh rugby. Don't care. Don't care
It
at
was
all.
Leinster's fourth team.
Well,
Get a
I've got
grip.
down here Scarlets beat Leinster under 15s reserves is what I wrote down there. So now to be fair, as was pointed out before the game to me, they had 10 internationals in that team. I did feel like questioning are they, from where they sort of, Zambian internationals or Turkish internationals or whatever they're from, but I thought I wasn't going to go down that route. No, I hated this weekend as much as our game was fantastic. Start with Friday night then. So Cardiff 26, Munster 21, bonus point win for Cardiff. Yeah, Munster have been rubbish away all season. I'm not going to give them too much credit for this one, but Cardiff did play well. Faletau rolling back the years with his performance. And it was a good win. It was a nice feel-good win for Cardiff, again, with everything they've been through the last few weeks. Packed house there at the Arms Park as well. Yeah, and a bonus point win for them, which is exactly what they needed. Kept them in the hunt. I think I put the hoodoo on things last week when I said that neither Cardiff or the Scarlets were going to make the top eight, and then they both go and beat the two top Irish provinces this weekend. So it's
You had to go and say it, didn't you?
probably my fault, to be fair. But yeah, Cardiff deserved the win, I felt, on Friday night. Yeah, good performance by them and well
Gutsy
deserved.
performance.
Yeah. And then while we're talking about the Scarlets as well, as I say, Scarlets 35, Leinster under 15s reserves 22. Again, a dominant performance by the Scarlets. If anything, you could argue the Scarlets could have pushed on and put even more points on them and improved their points difference a little bit further again. Yeah, very disappointed by Leinster. I think they were, they know they've got that top spot tied up and the home games throughout the playoffs through to the final. They had nothing riding on Friday, and it's clear where their loyalties and where their priorities are now in terms of the European games coming up and the playoffs when they do arrive. So yeah, again, you can only beat what's in front of you, I suppose, at the end of the day. And Scarlett's put in a very comprehensive performance, good win for them. But yeah. Just a shame, really. It's got to be them, isn't it? But there we go. Keeps them in the hunt for the playoffs as well. But they've got a tough finish as well, so we'll see how they get on when they play a proper grown-up team um, rather than the youth team. And that's my pettiness over with for this week. Sorry. Going on to the other game. So the other game Friday night was Glasgow 19, Bulls 26. Quite an old-fashioned performance by the Bulls. It was a real powerful display by them. But when I say old-fashioned, was they took the points when they were available to them in the first half. They took the penalties that were available.
Hmm.
Built the score in the first half. They actually got outscored try-wise, 3 tries to 2, but still won the game. And Yeah, I thought the Bulls looked really impressive. I think they put themselves in a strong position. Um, they are now 1 point behind Glasgow in the race for second place, which will obviously give them the home semi-final if they got through as well to the semis. Yeah, so Glasgow looking over their shoulders now for the last two games of the season. We'll see how that one pans out at the
Yeah.
other end.
And who's playing the Bulls out in South Africa? I think it's Cardiff and Dragons, isn't it?
Yeah, so they can guarantee five against the Dragons, and depends how up Cardiff are for it, I suppose. But
Depends on how petty you are.
yeah, exactly. I think the Bulls are looking strong to maybe snatch second from Glasgow. Possibly, I would expect them to get two bonus point wins in these last two matches. I'm not sure who Glasgow got actually. The last two matches. Let me have a quick peek. Um, so this makes for excellent listening now with me scrolling on my phone to find the next fixtures. Um, Glasgow have got Benetton
Leinster
away. We'll talk about
and
them in
then
a minute,
Leinster.
and Leinster, who
Mm.
don't care at this point. So yeah, maybe yeah that Benetton game. I think they'll need to get maximum points in that Benetton game to probably just pip the Bulls possibly to second.
Yeah.
Three games on Friday night this week. So there was Zebra 25, Edinburgh 25. It looked like Edinburgh were going to blow it. Zebra looked like they'd done enough. Two late penalties put them ahead by six, or not by six, by more than six coming into the last 6 or 7 minutes of the game. Um, and a really late try by Matt Curry and a nerveless conversion reminded me a bit of Jack Walsh's for us up in Glasgow. Same sort of position from Cammy Scott in the draw for Edinburgh, and those extra points may well be the difference at the end of the season for Edinburgh. It keeps them in touch with the top eight. They're in 10th currently, but certainly in touch and in with a chance. So yeah, those 2 points could prove to be really important. Zebra competitive as always. They've had a really good season, and they've had a year they can be proud of looking back. And nearly pulled off another scalp on Friday night, but
Yeah.
couldn't quite hold on.
Was it distinct first half of the season, second half of the season performance for Zebra for me?
Mm.
They were flat at the beginning, weren't they? They showed a bit of promise at the end of last season, and
Yeah.
everyone thought, okay, let's hope that they kick on this season now, and they didn't for the first half.
Mm.
They're looking as sort of fickle as ever.
Yeah,
But they've really turned their season around, and they're not in with a chance of getting top eight, but they've certainly impressed some of us, haven't they?
definitely.
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see if they start the season strongly next year. They would be, their as you say, their form the second half of the season would have them close to the top eight.
Yeah.
So if they played as well the first half of the season, then they'd be knocking on the door in that
Yeah,
race.
yeah. If they
So
can do that, we should all be more worried because
yeah,
it's condensed as enough in the middle,
exactly.
isn't it? Yeah, yeah, of course.
Really is, yeah. Lions 26, Connacht 7. Yeah, Connacht season is petering out. They couldn't get anything going at all on Saturday. It was a really poor quality game. The Lions certainly the weakest of the four South African teams now is fairly clear. I was sort of bigging them up with these four home games to go. Okay, they won, didn't get a bonus point on Saturday, but they played quite poorly. I would think that we could beat them in that last game of the season potentially if we play at our best and they play how they are currently. Um, Both teams probably out of the race for the eight, I would say. The Lions are still technically in there in terms of the points total that they've got, but again, I can't see the Lions winning their last two games with enough gusto to drag them in there possibly. But who am I to know? As I said, I thought Scarlett and Cardiff are going to lose on the weekend, so yeah. The team that are coming into form big time are the Stormers. Beat Benetton 56-5 on Saturday. Looked very, very powerful. Benetton, who'd impressed with their win against the Lions the previous week, couldn't back that up with their second South African game. Seven tries for the Stormers. Looks like they're really peaking at the right time. Pulls them up to sixth place, and I think whoever they get in the playoffs, which I think they probably will make now, could be the toughest draw potentially for whoever gets them. I think they really looking at a decent side. Benetton were poor. Let's not get that wrong either. And it is a blow to Benetton's hopes. They were sitting pretty in fifth just a few weeks ago. They're down to eighth now and just clinging on to that last place in that sort of top eight. But yeah, a real blow for them. And they've got a bit of recovering to do for next weekend.
Yeah.
And then the final game of the weekend, Ulster 19, Sharks 22. Ulster raced into a 19-point lead. But the Sharks are a bit like us last season. They're just finding a way to win these games. They're squeaking out wins. They're not impressing at all, really, on attack. Their defense does look rock solid, to be fair, especially in the second half of this game. Um, Moves the Sharks up to fourth place, pretty much cements them in the top four now. They've got a 7 or 8 point gap, I think, to fifth, to Cardiff. So they'll have a home quarter final to look forward to. And I think, as much as they're not playing well, I think I commented to our USC chump friends on Saturday night, I wouldn't be surprised if the Sharks went and won the whole thing, just by the fact that they're finding a way to win games. And they have
Yeah,
got a quality squad. They're not piecing together the performances at the moment, but they've got a quality and a strong enough squad to win it, if they can keep on putting in the performances and finding a way to win.
yeah. If you look at how tight that group is, you know, you've got, Connacht sitting there on 30, 35, Lions on 35. Then you've got us and Ulster on 38, Edinburgh on 39, Munster on 41. You know, again from eight. Well, yeah, 5, 6, 7, and 8. They're only separated like 5, 6 points.
Yeah.
It's not a massive margin. And if we were thinking last year to make it to those playoffs, we were looking at getting in excess of
Mm.
50 points. Um, the top eight may not even be getting near that
No, I don't think they
this
will this season,
this
no.
season.
No.
Obviously, those top four, I think, 67, 59, 58, and 53, you're not going to touch them really, but it's all to play for from five down. So it's going to be an interesting final two rounds, but we'll keep the faith.
Lots of twists
We'll
and
keep
turns,
the
I think, in
faith.
that last fortnight. The one thing I'm always surprised with the USC is they don't play the fixtures concurrently on that last weekend. So if you're playing the last games of the weekend, you've got that advantage, you know what you need to do.
Yeah,
Yeah, always sort of surprises me that, but yeah,
like a
we'll
Super
see.
Saturday
Yeah,
kind of thing.
that seems fair.
Um,
I suppose it's TV, so they can show all the games, I suppose. But
yeah, pretty much.
yeah,
But that is our URC roundup. I'm going to create a jingle for next season's pod. Because I make up songs about the dog all the time. So I'm sure I can make up a jingle. Um, but in other news, we were talking last week on the pod about WRU announcements, and then they made the announcement about Dave Redding being appointed as director of rugby, and he, well, world's worst kept secret, really, wasn't it?
hmm
Um, and he kind of did a meet and greet. I don't know if you guys have listened to the Scrum 5 podcast with him.
yeah,
Um, Came across as quite a nice fella. Seems like he's got his head screwed on. Couple of things I kind of raised my eyebrows at a little bit, maybe. Um, I don't think head coach is as tied on as we think it possibly could be, because they were saying, or Abby Tierney was saying there is a short list, but that short list is by no means the final list. He can add someone or take someone away if he wants to do that, which is good. He's got to work with them at the end of the day. The other things that perhaps sort of, I can look at it from both sides. When they were talking about, they were really good in asking them difficult questions, really, and saying, look, if you've got a 10 who's starting for the Dragons who wants to play 10 for Wales, are you going to have input into that with the head coach? And he was kind of, not from a technical point of view, but from a One Wales strategy point of view, then yes. Abby Tierney then cut in and was like, well, absolutely, you will have some involvement in that. So I was a bit, he's got some background in rugby, but he does admit himself he perhaps hasn't got that tech level of technical knowledge to pick a
yeah.
team.
One thing
So
they
And
that
did,
that's
kind
why
of,
the relationship is key between him and the head
yeah,
coach. If the
yeah,
head coach is supplying all of Dave Redding's rugby knowledge, then they're going to need to be good communicators, aren't they, and have quite a
yeah.
close relationship going forward.
And that's what they want, I think. The other thing that was interesting was about putting players out on loan for the creating this one Wales strategy again. And he was like, look, I've got to be honest, it's got to work for the player, it's got to work for the region, it's got to work overall. Um, he's got a lot of work to do in his hands when he was talking about communication and building trust with the regions. Um, one good thing, I suppose, that he said is that he's not bound by the history of the regions. He wants to do what's best for Welsh rugby as a whole. He's not going to be bound by the history. He's not going to be dragged down to it, because he did say he's aware there's a lot of tribalism in Welsh rugby, and he doesn't want to get involved in that or the politics, which I think is a good idea. It needs somebody to come from it from that point of angle, from my point of view. But I think it's really positive. He's not going to be full time in that role until September, so I strongly suspect that over the summer his job is going to be appointing a head coach, and we
Yeah.
won't know more about that until August,
Yeah,
September time.
it sounded very much as if we're going to have an interim situation in place for that tour in the summer, which I think we can all probably see coming now with the amount of time it's taken to get the
Mm.
director role appointed. I think the one thing I took from the interview, and again, it was down to some of the questioning that Gareth Rousseau was doing,
Yeah,
just how broad Reddin's remit is in this
big job.
role. He was talking about elite level in terms of the international game, being heavily involved with the regions. He was talking about the community game. He's got a really massive job in his hands engaging with all those different levels of rugby across Wales. And he talked a lot about, the sort of grassroots, being so important. So, to me, it seemed like just almost the job of three people that you need. So one person to do the elite, one person to do the regions, one person to do the clubs, one to do the community game or whatever. But he's got to do all that within with his one job role, which seems like a
Yeah,
massive task for one person. And they asked him about what his priorities were, and all he really said was the head coach was his number one priority to get him in
yeah,
place. And then from there on, it'd be interesting to see what the next priorities are. And you would expect it would sort of work its way down the structure in terms of getting the PRA across the line with the regions and working
yeah,
with them, then going down to the SRC with the clubs, and then the community game from there.
yeah. The other thing I thought was really interesting that came out of that as well was about the PRA and mentioning about the PRA, because they were like, mentioning that deadline that Keyword Collier gave, and they questioned him around that, and they were like, look, there is no deadline. We've got to get this PRA signed because we need to be able to take on those COVID loans, and we need to restructure finance. And in all fairness, they did come right out and say, well, is there a time limit on it because you've got a time limit on the finance? And they were like, absolutely not. And they acknowledged that with the buyout of Cardiff, there were serious questions that the other regions had about how that's going to work as a result of that takeover of Cardiff. So she was like, no, there's no deadline of when that's got to be signed. We got to a point where we were almost at the point of wet ink signatures on the PRA, and then that the Cardiff thing happened. So for me, I liked the cut of his jib when he was speaking. I liked how honest he was that it's going to be a big job, and I liked what he said. I think he wants to get involved in everything, because the one thing that they said is what you see or what you want to achieve out of this. And he said potential. Wales have got potential. And I think that's what we want someone to see in us, really. Because he said we haven't got bad players. We've got potential there. We've got players. We just need to harness them to the best potential that we can. Um, and he acknowledges that it's not a quick fix. Um,
He isn't
the
here to
other,
make friends at the end of the day. So he was quite clear that he will butt heads when he needs to.
yeah,
He's extremely performance driven, and his remit will be to get results at all levels of the game, really starting at the top and working down really from there, or the other way around. But I think he'll be very, very results driven, and there'll be very, clear targets in place,
yeah.
year by year of where he's expecting things to be, I would say.
And I like that he included the women elite in that as well. and the conversations that he's had with Linny already around that. So I think, we've got to see the positives in what's coming and what's happening. And I certainly, listening to that 40-minute interview, Laura Madge and everything were quite impressed with him, how he came in, his persona, shaking hands, introducing himself to everyone. And I think that shows the character of a person, really, that they're prepared to come in. I did love though that oh God, the guy, I never remember his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, we've never had anyone come in before and shake hands. And she went, yeah, you have, Mark Jones. And I thought that was really lovely because again, I've always seen him go and shake hands. The other thing that's come out this week is a list of Cardiff's creditors. Wow.
The poor magician.
Pay the magician, you tight get.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's the small people on that, like the utility companies, whatevs, give it to the man. But the smaller companies where they roll in them, 25 grand, whatever, that's business changing. So it's interesting to see what's come out. I'm not mentioning Voldemort on Twitter, who's had a bit of a whinge this week about did we see about the performance director, how only one regional CEO was involved in interviewing for the
Oh,
Dave Redden position. No surprises, it was Lance Bradley. Shove it off you, Wazoo. Stop being so bitter about everything. Get a grip.
have you seen the
Doesn't
Scarlet's
matter who was
version?
involved.
Have you seen the Scarlet's version of Cardiff's Voldemort has now reappeared on Twitter as well?
No.
Yeah, you'll know him when you see him. He's another name that you'll recognize. It's kind of
Uh,
Scarlet's version of him, who's always negative about everything. He's back as well. So
can't even deal with it. Um, but um, other news, not particularly, just relating to me really. I've booked Dublin for next year's Six Nations. I believe
brilliant.
if I can get
Nice.
my friend Ian dressed up in a leprechaun outfit and my brother dressed as the Pope, I'm winning at life.
God, I just hope we improve for your sake. Like, I know you'll have a good time anyway, but I just hope it's more positive than the last two.
Rome was depressing. And because I don't really drink anymore, Rome was really frigging depressing. Like the lads were great, they were on the Peroni. I just wanted to shoot myself in the face because it was raining, it was shit, and I just wanted to, like, I literally wanted to shoot myself in the face. Um, but I have booked Dublin. We fly out on the Friday. It's a Friday night game, so we can, get ourselves ready, head to the game, and then on Saturday we booked to do the Jameson and the Guinness tour.
Nice.
Totally wasted on
I was
me.
gonna say when you're not drinking, yeah.
I'll just go for the crack, innit? Um, and I'm trying to think, like I put some bits and bobs down. Obviously, next week we've got coming up the Lions announcement on Wednesday, the 8th. Um, be interesting to see how that goes. Did everybody else see the re-release footage this week of Lee Halfpenny finding out he was a lion?
Hmm.
It's so
Yes.
lovely.
Yeah,
So, so nice. And I did think it was interesting that out of the last four tours, 3 out of 4 players of the tournaments were Welsh.
yeah,
Could this mean that, Captain
Happy
Jack
Jack.
Fantastic,
Yeah.
or my boy Dewi,
Harry Deeves?
Harry Deeps. Can you imagine what a Lions bolter that would be? Can you imagine Mosh on tour like? I'd love it. Can you imagine him down under?
Oh,
Will
imagine the
Spencer's got a
behind the
shout as
scenes.
well. Will Spencer's got a shout as well. They need a tall giraffe out there as
Tall
well to go
giraffe,
on those hard
go to the
grounds in
plains of
Australia.
Australia. Um, so what I would like you two to do as homework for next week is come up with your lion squad for me.
Okay, can do that.
Yeah, I've started.
Um, I don't tell my boss, but I work from home, so I can watch the I can watch the Lions announcement live, and I can give you a post announcement. Of what I suspect is good or bad. They've also got a rather lovely range of women's clothing in the Lions stuff. So think I might buy myself some stuff because it's pink. And they've also got a really nice green. So I might do that. You lads up for a bit of lion specials throughout the summer? Because we can't leave people from May to like September, can we?
Well, miss us. What would people do without us, Sam? That's the question. People are
Well,
going to be
what
waking up on a
AI?
Wednesday morning. People are going to wake up on a Wednesday morning wondering where we are. So we're going to have to do
I
some
know.
lion stuff.
Play my black feather.
Exactly.
Like that.
We've got to find alternative teams around the world that can be represented under the banner of Black Feather.
But we could
We
do
will start
MLR
off
season's going to go on, isn't it, throughout the summer?
Yeah.
Japan
Seahawks or
League.
something.
Yeah, is Japan going to go on over the summer as well? I think is that a summer
Konnichiwa.
as well? So we'll have to pick a Japanese team and an MLR and an MLR. MLR team, the San Diego, whatever they're called, Meerkats or
Sea,
whatever you call them.
sea wolves.
Yeah, they've got a nice black jersey I've seen today, which would fit
I'll
in
look into
with
this.
our color scheme. So San Diego, and it's a nice place apparently, San Diego as well, if you want to go and visit. So yeah, we could be MLR fans. I'm going to put my hat in the ring for the San Diego, whatever they're called,
Okay.
as our team.
Okay.
Legion. Legion.
Legion, there we are.
I'll look into this. I will have a look. Rod and I also met Nora on Saturday. We gave her some stickers. Um, and we got talking about her rugby journey. And Rod and I were talking about perhaps doing little snippets over the summer, little one-to-ones with some of our listeners about their rugby journey and how they came to the Ospreys. So if you're interested in doing that, let me know. I've signed up my brother already. Um,
Do we
that's
have to
going to
keep
need a
you off
trigger
that one?
warning.
Do we have to keep you off that one? Is that just one for me and Rod to do?
No, nobody needs to know that much information about me. Like nobody needs to know. Um, Rod said, "Does your brother ever smile?" Not really. He looks like a serial killer if he smiles. However, he did have a picture with Ozzy on Saturday in which he was smiling, and I sent it to Rod, and I was like, he must have wind.
I did see that one.
Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? So we'd like to do that across the summer, just so we keep things going. We give you your weekly dose of Astri. Um, Loving the AI, Geraint. The fact that you've made me my hero, Miss Piggy in AI, has made my day.
What I
I
love
love Miss Piggy.
What I love best is that Rod looks older than me in every single one. That's
Every
my
single
favorite
one.
part of it. So
Every single one.
They removed my mustache. Do I need to dye it or something so it stands out a bit more on
I don't
camera?
know. You know, it's good that you're old enough to like, you know, you're gonna have to have a moustache off with Ryan Smith when he joins, aren't you? Do you think you can get like an Aussie tash going for me?
I can do my best. I think he's got darker hair than I do. Like half of these are blonde and ginger and they sparkle in the
Could have dressed
sunlight.
for men, haven't you?
As soon as I step outside, it like disappears.
Nothing
Flies
wrong
off
with
my
being,
face.
nothing wrong with a bit of ginge, babes.
On
Um,
your brother, Sam, I've got a good idea for a game. You've got to start
okay.
snapping a photo of him at sort of the final whistle, and you post it online, and we've got to guess the
Whether it was a
result.
win or a loss.
Yeah,
Cool.
based on his expression.
Grumpy Gary. Funnily enough, he's just texted me. His favourite thing to call me is a Nazi. I am the least Nazi-like person I know, right? Literally. And he just texts me Nazi, just or dickhead or stuff like that. So when you saw me doing that earlier on, I was actually doing a selfie to say I'm doing my podcast, piss off, leave me alone. But we can do that. Or we could do pin the smile on the Gary. Can we? We could make that boy go viral if we wanted to. Like we could.
it'll be interesting.
Um, but I can't think of any other news off the top of my head. Anyone else?
I've got one other sad image from the weekend, unfortunately, which was the
Oh,
sight of the Wales women's team crying as
Mm.
they left the
we're
pitch
not talking about it.
after the Italy game. It's been a disappointing season. I mean, I think to be fair to the new
Sean Lynn.
coach, Sean Lynn, he didn't have a full preparation with them for the Six Nations. He's been
No.
trying to change things on the hoof. He's now got a full lead up to the World Cup in August, where hopefully he can implement his style and his, game plan a little bit more with the girls. But yeah, I think after a promising first couple of games, the Six Nations petered out big time really, and that was a record defeat to
Yeah,
Italy on Sunday, which was a shame. And I say sad to see the girls upset coming off the pitch and things as well. And
they've had a
hopefully,
bit of a kick in on social media as well,
yeah,
which is
no, it's a
not
shame though.
nice.
But I still think Scotland, that first game of the World Cup is still the one target game for them. We had a close match against them in the Six Nations just gone now, and it'll be the first game of the World Cup for them. Played in Manchester, and I'll be there on that Saturday as well. So yeah, looking forward to that one, and hopefully we can get our revenge and put a smile back on the girls' faces, hopefully for that game as well.
Amazing. And I did write it down, but I forgot. The regions have been invited to create women's rugby teams.
Yeah,
I would love that.
no word from us as to whether we're going to be involved. I know a few of us have poked Lance
We did
Bradley with
try.
questions on
Yes.
Twitter about it, but he hasn't responded yet, has he? So
Yes, Lance, if you're going to like my tweet and you're going to publicly acknowledge that you've seen it, reply to me.
Lance, we'd love a women's team.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah, we
Um,
would.
we really, really would. And that would then mean that we have to bring Sharon back as the mascot.
definitely.
Also, big shout out. My boy Ozzy going off the top of a roof. It may or may not have been a stunt double, who also is a Royal Marine. But I'm loving this. I'm loving this mascot thing. We need to do more. Um,
Mm.
more of that. Really, really, really love
In
that.
the derbies, I'd love to see mascot head-to-heads at halftime. Just quickly run out like one of
Egg
these
and spoon.
inflatable Ninja Warrior courses and just have them doing it. Maybe get a couple of the members of the crowds, somebody
Yeah,
representing each of the teams as well to do it afterwards. That would be fun, wouldn't it?
Or just
would
bare
be
knuckle
amazing.
fighting between the mascots would be fine as well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be averse to a little bit of a fist fight. I can't lie.
A
Um,
table of different medieval weapons that they've got a selection of.
I would really love to be able to joust. I think I'd be epic at it because I mean, like I'd have no problem going for the head or between the visor. Like one of my favorite films of all time is A Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger and
Oh,
Paul Bettany and Alan
phenomenal
Lydiate.
film.
Love it.
I don't think
Yeah.
they'd let the horse on the pitch at half time, though, would they, to do that?
Swans,
No.
probably not. They're
Bit of
aggy and
fertilizer
they
though, isn't it?
Well, St Helens we can do it because it'll be an artificial pitch when it won't matter if the
artificial
horse is on
pitch,
that one, it'll be
salt and
fine.
peppers. What's the
There we are.
worst, isn't it?
Well, talking about St. Helens and news, there is going to be a drop-in event
Community
at St.
drop-in.
Helens on the redevelopment. I think that's happening on the 6th of May, 3 till 8 p.m. And yeah, I'm just looking at it now. Yeah, that's taking part at St. Helens Rugby and Cricket Ground. So that should be an opportunity for, I guess, to have a verbal update of the update that we had recently, and just an opportunity for fans to ask questions. So if you've got questions about transport or numbers or access or stuff to do with the fan zone, sign up and go along to that event.
I'm working in Cardiff that day, or I would probably head down. Um, talking of A Knight's Tale, Rod, they've made it into a musical. It's
No
currently in
way, did they?
Manchester. Yes, way. Apparently, it's really epic.
What, at the
So,
moment?
yeah, if it comes to
Oh.
Wales, mate, you know what we're doing.
What a film. What a film.
I love it. Golden years. Um, yeah. So that's the news roundup. Can't think of anything else when newsed out. Um, Rando. So I got two. So I'm gonna write on my hands. So you can have that's if I can write on my hands with my left hand. Right or left?
Right.
Right or left?
Uh, can we both choose the same?
If you want to.
No, I'll go left then. Let's make a game
Right,
out of
we'll do Rod's first and I'll ask you. So it was lotto.
Hmm.
We've had a scammer in our community, you know, offering to make us loads of money. And we had a bit of banter about it. And our lovely Dara said, he wants 9 grand. So I'm like, what are you going to spend 9 grand on? You're like 16 hookers and drugs or what? Do you know what I mean? And he was like, well, what would you spend it on? Botox and a boob lift. Hello. But it then got me thinking, if you won like a mega amount of money, so no like these lunatic prizes in America, like 200, 400 million. I know everybody would do the usual, help their family, do this, that, and the other. But what is the one thing that you would buy for you that's totally extravagant and you just be like, yeah,
I mean, it's
and
a
you've
bit
got silly
predictable,
money?
but like an island, I do fantasize about that. Just, your own space, separated by deep water from any other humans. I'm just
Amazing.
revealing, yeah, giving an insight into my psyche now. But no, yeah, I'd probably like buy an island and just build a paradise on it.
Amazing.
And
Mark,
it
you
would
can
be one of these like Love Island paradises. When I say paradise, that means probably building a wooden shack, but planting like loads of trees and just greening it up and living in
I can't
wilderness.
see you on Love Island, mate.
No,
I
no,
can't, you know. Yeah, no, you're too classy for Love Island, dude. Like
yeah.
they are thick as pigs,
And
like
also,
literally.
I'd just be like the fire junkie. They constantly got fires burning places. I'm like, that would be me. I'd be like, no, don't
And
worry, crew. I got this. I'll
and
take
you're so
fire
cute.
responsibility.
Everybody would come to you for like a nice chat and stuff because you are lovely. Um, Mark, what would you do?
I like collecting stuff.
Mm.
I'm a bit of a gatherer and hoarder, and
Yeah,
especially memorabilia and stuff. I've got so many football programs, rugby programs. I'm getting my rugby programs when I was a teenager. Loads of them were signed, and I stuck them all over my wall and took out the middle pages that were signed and stuck them all over the wall, and they all got wrecked. So lots of my old rugby programs are gone, but it's something like, I don't know, match worn shirts from like tours that are impossible. So like 71 Lions tour, for example. 1 to 15 test jerseys signed by each of the players on those that's that wore those shirts. 97 Lions, I've got the picture up here that are signed with the first 15, the shirts,
And obviously
and
build a
stuff like that,
museum to store
memorabilia.
them all in.
Well, yeah, but I'd have a house big enough to be able to display them, and I could have a room then, my sort of man memorabilia room,
Yes, yeah.
with just all that stuff in, with some of the jerseys all up on the wall and stuff and things. Sort of money can't buy things like that, where you,
yeah.
you couldn't get hold of those for love nor money probably, and I'd sort of be popping over to Gareth Edwards' house or something and saying, oh, can I buy a Lions jersey from 1971? How much? Oh, I'll give you 100,000 for it. I've got it
Yeah,
stacked. I've got it stacked on the back of the sofa. I'll keep it right
I get that.
Great.
I
I'd
was
do
lucky
for
enough to meet
well.
some of the 1971 Lions. And I met Willie John McBride. What a lovely man, and still like huge.
Mm.
Um, and obviously saying about the 99 one in all in
Yeah.
call. Um, really good experience to see him talking. Um, if I won the lottery, then there is a place in Disney called Golden Oaks, and you can buy your own home inside Disney. They are amazing. They're about 15, $16 million. Um, you can have it decorated to your specs. If you go and stay for Christmas, you can pay them 10 grand and they'll decorate your house in whatever theme you want it. If I won silly money, I would buy that for myself.
They
They've all
can't
got like,
come up very often,
they
surely.
they don't, they
Yeah.
don't. But they are amazing. You get
So
like
you'd buy
the perk
you'd buy a hitman, you'd hire a hitman to knock off somebody who
on the
already
dark
has one
web.
of these houses. So one comes on the market, and then with the
Yeah,
rest of your money, you'd buy it.
yeah. Um, they're just amazing. Like they've all got like 4 or 5 bedrooms, like nice size, outdoor barbecue areas. Like the master bedroom goes out onto the pool. They're just insane. And obviously, if you've got that amount of money, like I could pay for Lottie to have a pet passport and I could hire a private jet to take me over. You wouldn't really need luggage because you could leave all your stuff there. The perks you get are insane. Like they limo you back and forth the parks, you get like extra magic hours, and like it's insane. So if I had silly money, I would do that.
I'll tell you what
The
else
other
I might
question,
do as well, Sam, is to buy Cardiff and then do like a sort of a Ted Lasso on it and run it into the ground.
Rebecca, um,
Joke,
please let
Cardiff
me,
fans, if you're listening, by the
please
way.
let me be Coach Beard. Please let me be Coach Beard. Or actually, it'd be Roy Kent because I'm quite grumpy. Um, but the other question I had, which is probably more relevant because of the weekend it is, obviously Star Wars Day is this weekend, so I had Star Wars on my hand.
Okay.
Um, there are people out there who've never seen Star Wars, which amazes me. Oh, hello, baby Kens.
Doesn't want to be there.
No, she's like,
Release it.
leave me alone. Leave me alone. Star Wars.
Mhm.
Because of my age, the original episodes 4 to 6 are my favourite.
Mhm.
Love Princess Leia. Technically, she is now a Disney princess, seeing as Disney have bought Star Wars. Um, she's my favourite. However, if I were to be any other Star Wars character, I would be an Ewok because I'm small, I'm prone to viciousness, and I'm hairy. They're very, very cool Ewoks are.
They're really not. I
They
despise
are! Don't
I
you dare!
despise the Ewoks. I hate them. That's the one thing that ruins Star Wars for me is the Ewoks, I'm afraid. I'm really
But you
sorry.
don't like Jar Jar Binks either.
I hate Jar
Um,
Jar Binks as well, yeah. Absolutely
Yes, yeah.
despise Jar Jar Binks as well.
Here's a
Sorry.
question then, Mark. What do you prefer, the Ewoks or the Jawas?
The Jawas, because they're on screen for less time.
Yeah, and they yeah
Listen,
limited
you know,
vocal
right?
capacity.
Ewoks get stormtrooper helmets and made drums.
Yeah. It almost ruins the whole franchise that it's the Ewoks that actually save the day at the end. Of everybody they could have chosen, it had to be the Ewoks that win that final battle for them almost, and it nearly ruins it for me, sorry. And I'm a
Ewoks are
massive
just
Star Wars
Care Bears
fan,
on
but
crack.
sorry.
Literally, Ewoks are just Care Bears on crack.
Oh,
That's
it's the
all they
first time
are.
we've fallen out, Sam, over anything
I know. I
Ewoks.
can't believe you don't like Ewoks. Like,
What
but what
even was your
character would you
question?
be?
I can't.
What
Oh, what?
character would you
We
be?
don't know
Who's your
yet.
favorite character, and which set of films are your favorite?
Oh, okay. I mean, can I go deeper into the canon and the lore than just the films? Can
Yeah,
I go outside of the
you can
films?
literally go Mandalorian, the whole shebang. Go.
I'm going Cad Bane,
Okay,
who is
yeah,
a bounty hunter, and he's styled like almost like a space cowboy. He's got
yeah,
this
yeah, yeah,
wide
yeah, yeah.
hat.
Absolutely.
He's got a really cool voice that's sort of like semi-robotic. He's got some like breathing apparatus and like
Yeah,
red glasses on. Cool looking character, and he's got a cool persona as well. And he appears a lot in the Star Wars Clone Wars cartoon
love Clone
series,
Wars.
and that is phenomenal. That's my favorite Star Wars content is
Love
the
Clone
Clone Wars
Wars.
film, but also the series. You learn more from that series about Star Wars than any other on-screen adaptation.
I like Rebels as well. I do like Rebels as well. Like I'll put that on if I don't know what to watch. I'll give it a watch.
Yeah.
Um, what about you, Mark?
What was the actual question again?
Which which Star Wars universe and who's your character?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on the original three, four, five, and 600%. Empire Strikes Back is one of my favorite films ever. Um, I think that's rubbed off on Zach a little bit because Zach's a massive
Yeah,
Star Wars fan, but everything that Zach's always played with in terms of Star Wars is always dark side. His favorite, like he's got a Darth Vader teddy, a Kylo Ren teddy, tons of
nothing wrong with
Stormtrooper
that.
Lego. He loves the dark side stuff, and I think The Empire Strikes Back for me is brilliant because the bad guys are actually winning at the end of that film, which you don't
Mm.
see in fantasy films very often, where the bad guys
No,
are actually winning. In terms of characters, I think my all-time favorite Star Wars character is probably Chewbacca. But left wing, I've got a real fondness for Admiral Akbar as well.
Mm.
just for his catchphrase, "It's a trap."
That's a
Yeah,
trap.
And I was gutted when he was killed in one of the new movies. That
Mm.
wasn't right at all. He shouldn't have killed Admiral Akbar at all, I'm afraid.
yeah.
Having said that, saying that Empire Strikes Back is my favorite Star Wars film, my second favorite film isn't part of the 9 films, but it's Rogue One.
I
So Rogue
liked
One
Rogue
was
One.
Phenomenal.
tremendous as well. They did a really, really good job on that. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a Prison Break meets Star Wars universe. It's so good, isn't it?
yeah, that was
We
brilliant.
like it's nice that it falls on a long bank holiday weekend because we usually do try and watch the films um like in chronological order rather than release date order. So it's quite nice that we've got a bank holiday so we can go ahead and do that. But I do like for me being little, Princess Leia was just so kick-ass as a girl. Just thought she was epic. She was all kinds of badass. Um, so yeah, that was for me. So I know it was two, but I kind of couldn't decide which ones. If Dara's listening, don't spend your money on hookers and crack. It's just a bad path, mate. Don't do it. You know, we will end up looking old like Rod in the AI pictures. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. But all our bits and bobs and our socials will be up for you on the bottom. If you want to send us your lion selections or your bolters or who you think is up for contention, then please send us those. Um, and if you'd like to get involved in our little one-to-one chats over the summer, then send us a message. We'd love
Mhm.
to speak to you. You know, as we keep saying, this is a fan cast for the fans. And we love speaking to all you guys. We've got a lovely little growing community, which we're really, really enjoying. But everybody have a good week. Please sign up for the Ospreys in the community lottery. If you want to go and attend the St. Helens chat next week, and we will be back recording next week. And that is it from us. That is episode 32. Realistically speaking, we've only got like 3 or 4 more episodes really before we do our little summer stint.
Mm.
Mhm.
And then
We've almost completed our first season.
Yeah, it's gone really fast, isn't it?
third
Yes.
of the way there to tattoos, lads.
I know, getting real now.
Come on. You know, it's going to happen. Don't worry, Mark, I'll hold your hand.
You might have to, yeah.
You'll be fine. It's not that bad.
Bizarrely, I'll be at the .com on Saturday. Ben's taking me to see the Swans' last game of the season on Saturday. So having
Are
missed
you?
the last however many Ospreys games, I'm coming down to Swansea for the football on Saturday. So
Oh,
I should be in
amazing.
Swansea.
Well,
So
I'm seeing Greg Davis on Friday night in the arena. And then I'm planning, I've got my nails Saturday morning and then I'm having a nice weekend in. What about you, Rod?
Um, I think Amy's sister is coming down to visit, so I think we've got a couple of walks planned. They've got a crazy dog, so they're actually camping elsewhere because
Dog's
it's not
mental.
compatible with a house that it does not know. So camping is the easier option.
What dog
Um,
they got?
they got a Springer or a Sprocker, one of those
I got a
mental.
Sprocker. They're
I think it's
nuts.
a Springer then. It's not the same as yours. That's how I remember it. It's a
They're all
Springer.
mental, like the Cocker and the Springer, mental. When you combine them together, you get Lottie.
It's got major anxiety. You can't look it in the eyes. You can't
Lottie.
acknowledge its existence. If you get down on its level, it'll have a heart attack.
Oh,
You
she's
just
not
have
that
to
bad.
literally pretend like it doesn't exist.
Yeah, she's a scaredy cat. The last couple of nights, she's had full on shakes and been in between me and John underneath the covers with her head on the pillow. And I've had to spoon her because otherwise she's just sitting up like, what's going on? Um, but she is quite loving. So if you came to our house, she'd lean against you and you'd have to tickle the top of her head. So she's not quite that bad. But have a lovely weekend. I will need pictures of the dog, so take sneaky selfies. But that is us for this week. Enjoy the rest of the warm weather. Have a lovely week, and we will see you next week for our Lion special. Au revoir.
Line of Wales.